Hello and welcome to the Be Formless Flow Driven CEO podcast, where we are reshaping life, leadership and business from the inside out. And I can actually say it's happy Friday to Yvette Adams and myself. Happy Friday and welcome to the show, Yvette.
Happy Friday to you too.
Yeah, you're in New Zealand. What is it? One quarter to 2
Yep,
p.m.?
1:45 here, a couple of hours ahead of Aussie at the moment.
Yeah. I'm loving all the colourful background, by the way. I should have mentioned that pre-show. It's very cool. Colour is my thing. It brings me lots of warm energy and yeah, I love it.
I'm at my very colourful friend's house. He's very arty, so he has art everywhere and I love it.
Yeah, it's so good. It gets that creative juice flowing, doesn't it? It's like, have you had a good week? How's your week been?
It's been great. I've been on holiday, picked up my daughter from Auckland Airport on Tuesday, and we've been road tripping. So we just stopped in at Mount Maunganui for a couple of nights, which is where I stay, and we're going to get back on the road and do some more road tripping tomorrow. So been doing lots of hot springs because what better way to spend winter than natural hot springs?
Yeah, beautiful. Where is Mount Maunganui, by the way? Just for all the listeners out there. Hello, everybody.
Hello, everybody. It's 2 hours 40-ish southeast of Auckland. So you head from Auckland down to the coast on the east, and you'll come to Tauranga is the biggest city near here. Mount Maunganui is a part of the region. And it's unfortunately got a bit famous in January this year because there was a big landslide here and some
Yeah.
people passed at that mountain. So, yeah, it's had a lot of grief and trauma in this area of recent
Yeah.
times, but it is a very beautiful natural landscape area as well.
Incredible. All right. Well, let's get on into it. I say this to everybody I've been talking to, that we're going to have quite the chat, and everything is becoming quite the conversation. It's amazing what you can cover in, a short amount of time. And I guess that's kind of the aspect of my podcast and the way we flow and the conversation. You're a founder and business partner, a communication strategist, an AI keynote speaker, a trainer. You're also a mum. I think you've got, how many children have you got? Is it just the one or two?
I have 2. I have a boy who's 22 and a girl who's 19, and she's the one who's here with me at the
Yeah,
moment.
gorgeous, gorgeous. And you have spent much of your life navigating change, not just in business, also in identity, leadership, health, and technology. It's coming up a lot lately, the identity piece.
Mhm.
I keep ruminating on it in a positive way around, it's good to be able to evolve from an identity perspective. You launched your first business at, drumroll, 17 years of age. That is so young. And you've founded multiple companies, selling successful ventures and becoming a trusted voice on digital transformation and AI. And I cannot wait to unpack how that came about. I'll hold on that one. Your career has been shaped by a willingness to continually reinvent and adapt. Along the way, life has presented its own inflection points. And for you, you have survived multiple strokes, incredible, heart surgery, and profound personal and professional change. And it's challenged you, Yvette, to rebuild from the inside out, from what I understand, reshaping not only how you have worked, but also how you lead and live. And it's given you such a perspective. And when I spoke to you the other week when we had a pre-connect, I walked away just really inspired, and just that reminder, that anything is possible when it comes to reshaping who you are and how you live and lead, and getting right back to the basics and simplicity. Today, through your speaking training and advisory work, you help and support leaders making sense of disruption, navigating the uncertainty, and embracing the opportunities emerging through AI. And there is so much emerging on the daily with AI. It's wild. At the heart of your journey is an ongoing practice of intentional shape shifting. What I mean by that is you're learning how to evolve without losing sight of who you are. So I'm going to hand it over to you to tell us about your journey.
Probably need a prompting question like, what part of the journey do you want me to start at?
Let's start with what made you become an entrepreneur at 17 years of age? Like, where did that, if we go right back to creativity, and, you said you're at your friend's house who's an artist. Have you
Mm.
always been I've been talking a bit about beginner's mindset lately, and, as children, we have these amazing imaginations and these amazing minds. But as we start to get conditioned in, you can't do this, you can't do that, you have to do this, you have to do that. We're kind of almost put on this trajectory, right? And here you are at 17, deciding I'm going to be an entrepreneur. I'm going to start my own company. It takes a lot of courage. You haven't gone down the, the traditional path. You've decided
For a while, kinda. I did try a career, but career didn't really suit me. Working for other people didn't really suit me. But
Mhm.
I did do it for a while, so I had a crack. But
Yeah.
yeah, I started the business at 17 at school because I needed money. That was the main motivation. I was playing for New Zealand schoolgirls water polo, and it was an unfunded sport, and I needed to find really creative ways other than making pizzas and car washes and sausage sizzles and all the things we did to kind of get whacks of money. So that was the motivation. And how it came about was my dad was actually a teacher at my high school. So that's unusual to go through high school with your dad, like right there. Luckily, he was a PE teacher and lots of people like PE. And he's also an ex wrestler. So he'd put people in a headlock. So teach them who's boss straight away. And then they'd kind of behave from. But anyway, I did journalism in my second to last year and really liked it. And then I was a good writer. Writing was my thing, terrible at maths. My dad said, you should start a newspaper. Here's one from Auckland that they have for young people who like sport. I said, oh, come on, Dad, I'm 17. I can't do that. And then when I went, hang on a minute, I could make some money here. And then I was surrounded by people who helped me. So I had my journalism teacher, Mr. Steele. I had my dad encouraging me. I had my mum who connected me to a friend of hers who did printing, and it was old school printing, like cutting out bromides and sticking it on. Like that's how much of a dinosaur I am. Nothing was digital. And then I was good at sales, I realized. So I started ringing up people, and what do you know? Pepsi wants to take out a full page ad, and the local supermarket. And so the money started rolling in, getting friends to help and dropping off in my little red mini the first bundle at all the schools, and the kids devoured it because it was made by kids. And then after its first issue, a guy contacts me, American guy, really upset with me. You've stolen my idea, he's saying in his American accent. I'm like, how can I don't even know you. I don't even know what your idea is. He'd been planning to do a secondary school sports newspaper for a couple of years, and I'd gazumped him. I'd come out with it first. So he said, you have to come and work for me. So I'm around the boardroom table at age 17 doing my first business deal with my dad, who's a teacher, not a businessman. And I didn't know how to cut a business deal. So in hindsight, I cut a really bad one. But he didn't give me any money to take over my business, but he said he'd pay me a wage each week. And to me, that was great because I had to finish my last year at school and try and pass. And I was thinking about uni and things at that stage. And then I was training incredibly hard. I was doing 20, 25 hours worth of training a week as well and trying to do school. So, yeah, I would do deadlines of 2 a.m. and then get up and swim at 6 a.m. And I don't even know how I did it, to be honest.
No, it's
I
so
did
crazy,
burn
isn't
out
it?
by the end of the year, and I had my first burnout at age 17 as well.
Wow. How did you realize you'd hit burnout at 17? Like, were you just completely exhausted? Did someone tell you, like, if sometimes we push ourselves.
Hospital. Yeah, I had to go to hospital because my kidneys, I've actually got a deformed kidney and a double ureter. I discovered all this. I'm prone to kidney infections and I had been partying as well. I'd been out drinking and staying up late and even taking no-dos to stay awake at 17 because I just needed to keep going and I didn't understand the consequences of that. So yeah, I didn't get to sit all my end of year school exams. I sat a couple and the rest I was too sick for and in hospital. So thankfully they aggregated my grades from the year and I passed. So yeah, that was the end of my secondary school year.
And so you've continued to be an entrepreneur along the way in terms of, like, you haven't ever worked for anybody else in terms of you get a taste of it, you do a deal that's not necessarily the best deal. What do you know when you're 17 though?
Yeah. I did go, yeah, I worked for him and I worked out our values didn't align. So I worked out that was my first business lesson. Like, don't go into business with people whose values you don't align with. And then what did I do from there? I wanted to get into journalism school. They said I was too young. They said I didn't have enough life experience, which they hadn't even really asked me about what life experience I had and I actually had quite a lot. So I was pretty upset about that. But then I ended up working for the New Zealand government. So I worked for Hillary Commission, it was called. So I used to do the letters for Sir Edmund Hillary, who climbed Mount Everest. He got a lot of letters. And Tenzing Norgay, his Sherpa, I got a lot of letters for him as well. And I used to run the National Sports Journalism Awards. So it was a pretty cool first job. I was around some amazing people. I got to do all the Adobe computer programs, training Microsoft as well, at a time when people didn't really get what computers were doing or how important they were or would become. And I just went, this is free training. I'm so grateful for the
Loving it. Yeah.
opportunity. because I hadn't gone to uni because I couldn't afford it and I didn't know how I was going to pay for my way through it. So all my friends went off to uni and I went into the workforce. But fast forward 3 years, I had 10,000 in the bank, 3 years work experience, all these credentials, and they were asking me for work. And I was saying, well, you could photocopy or stuff some envelopes. So it worked out okay for me. I don't say to people don't go to uni, but I do say go if there's something you really want to do. And I didn't really know what I wanted to do either. So I'm glad I just did baptism of fire and tried things out in the workforce and worked out what I liked and fell into something I liked pretty early on, communications.
Do you think that's a lot of just like you brought up the word can't before when you're like, I can't do this, right? And so then you quite quickly had your parents and other people around you say, yes, you can, sort of thing. In terms of like the lived experience and the ability just to continue to, shape and shift, if you like, in terms of like just that, you talk around baptism of fire and just exploring and that curiosity and courage. Do you think it would have been different for you if you had gone to university? Like in terms of, do you think you would have been as curious and open to the unknown and exploring, or is that not something that you can compare it to? And just, the reason I asked, yeah, sorry, you go.
I've never really thought what would life have been like if I went to uni. I mean, I used to dip into all the parties. I'd go down to Otago. I went and checked out Canterbury. I went to Victoria University. All the parties, I would follow my friends around and still get the social thing. But I never actually, even to this day, have gone, what would it have been like if I went to uni? And neither have I gone, I really need to get that piece of paper. I've
No.
been just, for me, quite determined, and where there's a will, there's a way. And if I want something, I'll do it. And there's usually some kind of motivation. So, back for the newspaper, it was money. And then when it was career, it was like, I've actually, got a good opportunity here. And if they're going to offer me free training, I'm going to take it. So not only did I do the training I had access to, I was saying, well, she's not using her budget, so can I use her budget as well? So the CEO took a real shine to me because I had that kind of tenacity and interest and was just a go-getter. And then my motivation then to get that money next was to travel. I just really wanted to get out in that big wide world and travel. So from 21 to 28, that's what I did. I traveled for 7 years of the world, and that was my school or university, if you like, the school of the world.
Life school. I love that. I love the life school. Quick question, and it could, because there's a lot more to your story. Do you think, like, you've got a 22-year-old and a 19-year-old? What's your view on university like today and versus the lived experience, especially with AI? And I read something the other day, and I know you'd be all over this in terms of schooling. University is going to look so very different in time, and a degree now is going to be very different to, like, do you need a qualification? Education is obviously still very important. We can't just use AI to like take over our brains, for example. What's your view or perspective on that?
Um, I mean, my kids, if they wanted to go to uni, I would have supported them. And I think that's what your job as a parent is. In my case, one's become a landscaper and done on the job training pretty much, but he's got certs and things. And my daughter became a nurse, and really grateful that through TAFE Queensland, they were after nurses. So she got that $25,000 worth of training free. So, money wasn't a deterrent there. But, if she wanted to go and further her education, I'm fully behind her, and she can and probably will need to if she wants to continue in the medical field, which I think she will. In terms of other people, I've had quite strong views on education for a while. So not only did I raise my two, who went to 3 different schools each, we've tried Catholic school, we tried private school, we tried state school, we tried homeschooling. I've done all of them. And for me, each kid is different, and you have to, work with them on what they need. So my daughter had medical issues and my son had ADHD, complex severe. I didn't know all through school, but here I was trying to manage his behavior and getting calls from the school every day. I don't understand how the school classroom and how the school system still works. I don't think it works. I think it's fundamentally flawed. And back in 2013, I went to Silicon Valley and I saw how in demand coding was. And I came back and I was in the media a lot saying kids need to learn coding. I'm not the only person who did that, but as a result, that was rolled out, a whole lot of STEM learning.
well,
But it was good because we're moving with technology, and let's consuming all the technology. Let's actually produce some as well, was sort of where I was coming from. But What I get excited about with the future with AI and education is the ability to curate the learning. Because if I have a grandmother from Spain and I want to learn Spanish, why do I have to do Japanese class? Why can't I sit down at a computer with Duolingo and then get connected to someone
Yes.
who speaks Spanish and have a real life interaction like we're doing right now? That's actually way more interesting than a teacher who's been told, teach Japanese. They don't know Japanese. They're not passionate about it. And it's not what you're interested in. Why are we doing that to kids? And all the kids, I've also helped two stepkids through education. I've seen my kids' friends, and I've got nieces and nephews in the system right now. None of them are enjoying it. They're not happy. They're just miserable. They're
Yeah.
not, yeah. And look, there's some wonderful teachers out there. Don't get me wrong. There's some people doing great things, but they're doing it in a system that isn't supporting the future. So,
Yeah, totally. I agree. And for me, it's a linear form of education. It's like linear climbing the career ladder, right? It's linear. Like it's non-linear now. And so how do we, like, exactly what you're talking about? If the ability to be able to have lived experiences through education, and I want to study Spanish, like you say. I think that it's ripe for disruption, and let's hope it's not not in the too distant future. So it was funny. I was reading something as well last night, and it kind of made me giggle because it was talking about how the way we work 9 to 5 won't exist in. I was trying to work out how old I was going to be, because I was like, am I still going to be alive for this? Like,
mm,
I'm 48, and I was saying I think it was 50 years or whatever. I'm like, is it really going to take that long? Like, are we really going to take that long to make some of these changes that are required right here, right now? And I know that it takes time. I just thought, surely we can speed some of this stuff up. Like, I think it just feels like
it's just
sometimes.
the whole system, like, the government funds the schools and then the schools do what the government wants to get the funding to. So they don't have that much autonomy to decide what to do. They're told to roll out the curriculum, and the new curriculum is this, and off they go. Like, there is alternative paths, but there's few and far between. But, homeschooling was a different journey again, because you do the core stuff. But what was cool about it is you don't have all the assemblies and all the interruptive kids and all of that. So when my daughter did that, she would finish it in 3 or 4 hours a day and then have a whole lot more time to learn whatever it was she wanted to learn, or I could support her with that as well. So, that can be a good option for people. But everyone, I wouldn't push, you should do homeschooling onto anyone either. Like, it's a very personal journey. What you decide is right for your kid. Like, what was right for my son was not right for my daughter. They're completely different kids with
Yeah.
different aspirations, different personalities, skill sets, everything. So that's where the curated thing would be better. Mm.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's fast forward to the personal journey that you've been on, in terms of you've had quite a number of strokes, you've had heart surgery, and we were just talking about AI and how you've come into another space, in terms of, obviously, like, you've had some serious adversity, and I know that's, from what you've said, it's certainly given you, a perspective on simplicity in life, and getting back to basics, and I'll let you share more on that. Tell us a little bit about that part of your journey, and then how that brought you to what you're doing, especially from an AI perspective and voice and everything now. Yeah.
So, we all remember 2020 and 2021 because they were the COVID years, right? So I had COVID experiences as well. And everyone starts venturing out into the world in 2022. And it was April 2022. I really got homesick from New Zealand, and I was desperate to get back here. Just the fact it was taken away, the ability to travel, to see my friends and family here, was really difficult for me to deal with. And it really affected me. So the moment we could get on a plane, we came back here. Of course, I was climbing mountains, probably drinking more than you would normally. And there were a few moments where I was like, I don't feel like myself, and some weird stuff was happening. Like, I'd lost my keys, and yeah, quite. I was out of character when I look back, but I didn't realize it. But I'd been having strokes, but they weren't big enough to notice. Um, for 2 weeks I had, and then it wasn't until I got back to Australia, I went to yoga class one-on-one, that she tried to pass me a ball and I couldn't actually grab it. Simple action like that, I lost my coordination. And then she said, "Are you okay?" Because I must have looked funny, I said, I went to speak, but it came out garbled, and I wanted to say, "I feel funny," but it came out, you know? So they're two massive signs. I then got a massive headache. My vision went on one side of my face. All down here was kind of pins and needles. So I was having a lot of symptoms, and I actually thought to say, "Do you think I'm having a stroke?" And I don't even know why I thought to say that, but this came out. And she was an ex-nurse. She was a registered nurse, that yoga teacher, but no longer practicing, and said, "Can you do that?" And I could do it. And she said, "Well, no, you're not having a stroke then," which is terrible advice, because if you have facial droop, which I did, that's fast as the symptoms. I'm going to forget because I've
For
got
your
considered
hands.
things. AST, speech is S. I forget what T is, but any of those symptoms I've just described are very stroke-like, and you should get medical treatment straight away. So I drove home. I told my
Oh,
then husband what was going on, what had happened. What did he think? He said we should go to the hospital, which is the right thing to do. We went to the hospital. We were there all day, had a CT scan, turned up nothing, sent me home. Broke my foot that night because I was so disorientated spatially. I couldn't judge where furniture was, and broke my foot. Had to go to the hospital next day for that, and it wasn't till I rang the doctor Monday. I got into the doctor Thursday. I had an MRI that afternoon, and then they started ringing every kind of communication to say, "You've had strokes, you've had multiple strokes, and you should not be driving." I said, "I've been driving all week." Like, oh my God. Um, they said, "You have to go straight to the hospital." And so you went there going, "Oh my God, I've had strokes." What? And these are not TIAs, by the way, because if some people might go, "Oh yeah, I've had mini ones," where I know someone who has, these were proper
what's
classified.
TIAs? Sorry, like what is
Um,
TIA?
I think it stands for transchemic. I don't know what the I stands for, attack. Like, they're little strokes, and they can cause harm and effects. But yeah, then with strokes, there's a hemorrhagic, which is where there's blood sort of leaking in your brain, like a blood vessel burst. And then mine was an ischemic stroke. So what was happening is, it turns out I had a hole in my heart, and I'd had it my whole life, and yet I'd played elite level sport, traveled, climbed mountains, done whatever I wanted to do. And blood was going through the heart chamber and up to my brain, and just kept on happening. And I look back and think, I did have 3 COVID shots because I wanted to travel to New Zealand. And at that time, 3 was required. Didn't really want to get the COVID shots at all, but did it because I wanted to live. And I think possibly the clots were caused by that, and then the, congenital fact I had a hole in my heart was the rest. So it took 3 months to get an appointment privately to get the heart fixed up, and I'm really lucky that that was a you went in via my groin through 30 years ago. That was open heart surgery, which is a major.
Yeah,
For me, it was in through the groin. They pop a little button in there, it pops open, and then your heart grows over it. So it's like a little sieve. Stuff can flow through, but not clots. So that stopped it happening. And they have a test they can do to work out whether you're likely to have other strokes. And I've only got 7% chance of having it, which is low. I like to think of it as insignificant.
yeah,
My
absolutely.
medical people sometimes say it's actually not insignificant. But I had to do a year of rehab after that, and I work with about 10 different people. And I'm very, very, very lucky because I can walk and talk, and, you wouldn't actually know there's
No,
anything wrong. But then
absolutely.
I'm also a big advocate for invisible disabilities, and there's or hidden disabilities. There's a whole movement and a thing, you can look at that up, where if you ever see someone wearing a sunflower chain or bracelet or badge, that means I actually have an invisible disability. So
Yes,
give me some allowances here and help me out, because places like shopping malls and airports and busy places can be very overwhelming, and we can get disorientated, we can get overstimulated, we can need some help and just compassion, not like, "What are you doing trying to get in my car in the car park?" Like, "Oh, sorry, I thought it was my car." Like, you make mistakes. I lose my car in the car park still to this day, and have quite a few cognitive challenges that I have to manage every day. I have to manage my fatigue levels. I have to manage my concentration and work in my optimal times. I struggle with emotional lability sometimes, which is, some people after strokes, um, they might get angry inappropriately or suddenly, or they might laugh inappropriately or suddenly. For me, it's sadness. It can just burst into tears, and there's not much I can do about it sometimes. And just getting that under control can be embarrassing and overwhelming at times. But I
like,
just have
how do
developed
you
huge
how do
compassion for people
yeah,
with these
yes.
things.
I had no idea about that part of, like, I mean, yeah, I just didn't realize. And so then how do you get your emotions back in, like back to kind of stabilize? Well, because it's, if like, you've got these cognitive challenges, if you like, and then, you say it's embarrassing. I don't see it as embarrassing. I see it as like, oh my goodness, like,
Mm.
people, yeah, compassion needs to be more, we need to be more compassionate in general as leaders, in life, etc.
Mm. Yeah, I guess that's right, and I have to remember that if I saw someone like that too, I would have the world of compassion, and I'm grateful for the lessons this has all taught me. It has taught me compassion, strength, hope, and I try and help other people who might be
Yeah,
at the beginning of their journey with those things, whatever they may be. In my case as well, the difficult times just rolled on, so, well, my whole goal, a year in, and they say it takes about 2 years to get over a stroke or get to where you're going to be, which is as good as you'll get. And my goal was to get married. So, the person I'd been with for 6 years, he was amazing through the stroke. He was my rock. He couldn't have been more supportive and there for me. So I, really appreciated that, and I'll never forget that. And then we did get married 1 year later, April 2023, and that was joyous. And finally, I thought after the 2 years of COVID and the 18th year of recovering from the stroke, and so we went on a European holiday, 3 months, and we came back. And then, unfortunately, I can't really go into the details, but the marriage fell apart, which I did not see coming, and which has taken a lot to get over, because you've gone from being a vulnerable person who had someone that understood what they were like before and after and how to support them. And then suddenly that person's not there anymore. So that's been a pretty difficult journey, to still keep recovering on your own and putting supports in place to just to get back to work, to live, to just, yeah, all of it.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, live
You
somewhere else and just organize, rechange everything in my life as a result of that
yeah,
relationship breakdown as well.
which is huge because you talked about hidden emotions. There's also this thing around hidden grief, right? That on
Yep.
the outside, because the person's still there, well, they still exist. They're not, they haven't passed away or anything like that. They're still there, and so there's this hidden grief that happens also because they're not part of your world anymore, and it falls apart, and then you're like, I got to get over. Why can't I just get over this? Why can't it? And it's just that it's like that. It's again, it's emotions and handling emotions and how you
Emotions. Yeah.
how you deal with that. You've had a lot of adversity, like even from your burnout back when you were 17, and then this continuation. Have you ever had moments where you've just gone, "What the actual like? Why does this keep happening? Why am I like? Have I been um?" What's the word? When you sometimes look up and you think to yourself, like, how much more can I
Yeah,
take?
I definitely have had those moments. I mean, I remember when I broke up with a kid's dad, which was also a really sad story. And I remember my daughter had broken her leg, and I'd just renovated the whole house myself, painted the walls. And I remember she'd broken her leg and she got this vomiting bug and she couldn't limp fast enough to the toilet. So she vomited up all the new renovated walls. And I remember cleaning it up and just thinking, what the hell? Like breaking up with a partner, daughter breaks her leg, has a vomiting bug, I can't take it anymore. Like I'm doing this all by myself. This is too hard. So that was a moment. And there's been many where I thought I actually can't do this anymore. And I've just had to figure out what my toolkit is. It's real simple. Bring it real back to simplicity. Like what brings you joy, move towards that. Where do you feel peace and harmony, move towards that. So I've got back to I love the ocean, so be as near it to it as I can. I'm living 1 block from it right now. What brings me joy? My friends, they remind me who I am because I've lost who that is at times, and they remember the old me and they accept the new me, whatever that is. And when you want to ask, like, am I different from how I used to be? And do you notice it and things? Because that's important to figure that stuff out. And that's part of the journey. They can tell you that honestly, and you trust their honesty will be
Yeah,
there.
so
Mm,
beautiful. And
um,
what about from a business perspective as well? Like like with all these challenges you've faced and you're an entrepreneur,
mm, you
it's
earn
not
every
easy.
dollar you get.
Totally, right? Like you kind of like down and out, and then you've also then got a business that you're responsible for. And when you're like you're pretty much unable to,
Couldn't look at screens. I couldn't do anything.
yeah, like how did that, how did you work through that?
So, number one, I was very lucky because I have a business partner, Katrina Lees, and I started the business in '07. She started working with me about '09 as a franchisee. And then in 2014, we decided to go 50% shareholders in the business. So I was really lucky to have her there. We'd hired a general manager, I feel like a month before it all happened. So that was like lucky, but talk about getting thrown into the fire pot. She just, sink or swim. We'd hired a couple of other people, an account manager. So we had a lot of new staff at the time. What was good is we had good procedures, good templates, and I've been big on that. Like, I'm actually not a routine person and I don't love the structure, but I do when I see the point of it.
Yeah.
And yeah, like we have a company intranet and a lot was on there. So when or if I could work, I'd do little fix ups of that stuff and download my brain if it wasn't up to date. But there was a lot there to work with. And so that's how the business kept going. And I say to people when I do my public speaking, what would you do if tomorrow you had a stroke like me and you couldn't work? Are you ready for it? So, number one, get that income protection insurance in place. I had insurance. I hadn't updated it to my current wage. So, what I'm actually eligible for is lower than the wage I was on. So, I had to take a hit there, but I did have it. So, thank God for that.
Yeah.
Um, do you have the procedures and templates? Do you have key people that you could say, right, if this happened, this is what would happen? And on a personal level too, like who would look after your kids and
Yeah.
who would pay your bills? Like I couldn't even look at screens because I'd just get headaches. So I literally had to meditate a lot and drink cups of tea and talk to people on the phone if they rang. And if they came to visit me, that was great. But I actually don't think a lot of people realized how bad I was. And I didn't say either because it's just your own journey. And you're like, is it that bad? I was all wired up on wires, monitors, like just for months as well. It was pretty full on. I just can't even, it's all a bit of a blur too because I don't think my brain wasn't there.
You compartmentalize, right? Because you're in survival mode. You're
I
you're
was.
getting through as best you can.
Mm.
And it's only like later in life or down the track you go back to things and you kind of go, oh yeah, I can talk about that now because I don't know. I feel like for me, it's part of the healing, right? Like until you're healed yourself, I'm one that's not necessarily a big able to just go and like say everything unless I'm feeling like I've got it like under like I've kind of
Got to reconcile it and articulate it.
processed it exactly
Mm,
like you're saying. Yeah.
mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there was that. And then there's a connection to the AI here too, because it was
Yeah.
in 2022 and I was struggling. Like, you still got to get back to people on email, text, and I was struggling to be on screens. And one of my business advisors, who's been with the business since 2018, Mark Cameron, he's an old friend of mine. He's amazing. He's a digital transformation specialist out of Melbourne. He said, if you're struggling with that, why don't you try ChatGPT? And I said, what do you mean? And he said, the voice feature on it, you can talk to it and it can help you do the text for your um, text messages and emails. And I was like, oh, that sounds pretty cool. So November 2022, I'm starting to play with ChatGPT for as an assistive technology, actually, is how I got into it. But then, if I look back over history, I've always, thanks to him, I got into it at that time. But over history, I got into people say to me, you were the first person I know that had an email account in 1996. You were the
We have
first
the
person I
PDF
knew to have
like I
full social channels in
yeah.
2008. And look, there's other people to have them, but in your peer group. And then I guess I just figure them out what they mean for me quickly. I'm really good at figuring stuff out and then teaching other people in a fun way that they actually remember, because I wasn't the best student. And I find, yeah, if teachers were boring and the topic didn't interest me, you've lost me. I'm just going
I
to walk
could
out or
imagine. I
something.
feel like I could imagine you just were like, whatevs. Like,
Yeah. So now I make people laugh and I give lots of analogies. They go, oh, got it now. Like, and you sort of see the light bulbs go off. And yeah, I've kept going with that AI stuff. I'm right now doing the Anthropic training. So, I say I didn't go to uni, but I am a big learner. Like, I've
yeah,
done a lot of the Google products. I've done a lot of the Meta Global training and certs. And I like learning from the source themselves because
do
who's better
I.
to train you? I mean, someone else could say, I'm an expert, but are you? But then I guess here I am. I don't teach people in specifically Claude and the whole product. I'm teaching you how to use it in your business, which is the same as what I've done. I've articulated it into the business and continue to. And, the race is really on. Like, I think the race is on for those who do understand, who are open to it, learn it, and articulate it into their business. They'll be the ones that survive. And those that don't, they're going to fall behind or struggle to exist in the form that they have.
Yeah, incredible. Two questions out of that. The Anthropic training. What is actually the Anthropic training? Is that like a training program through Anthropic, like directly
Yeah,
through
for
them?
Anthropic, you can do
Yeah.
their training and, yeah, it's free, and not people don't necessarily know it's available, and ChatGPT is going to be rolling out training and yeah, look, like you say, it's hard to keep up with it all, but my simple way is I like Instagram and I flick through and there's a few channels I follow and I save to folders, and then usually on the weekend or on Fridays, I work 4 days a week, I'll open all of those up and then I'll go, "Right, what was that one again? What do I do with it?"
Yeah, same.
Yeah, and just
Yes.
try and implement as much as I can and play with stuff. Play with it till you break it. And, I don't know if you know about like model context protocols, MCP and stuff like that. It's like, yeah, connecting things and making it work for you. It's amazing. It's
Broke
absolutely
something the
mind
other week,
blowing what it
didn't
can
it?
do.
It
What?
is amazing. I broke something the other week. I was having an absolute meltdown. I was connecting my Figma to Anthropic Claude, and I just went, "Yep, I know what I'm doing." Had no idea whatsoever, but I'm like, just going to throw myself into it. And then I'm like, like I turned something into something, and I went into this utter panic. But then I realized, well, quite quickly, oh no, it's actually fixable. Anything that breaks is fixable. Do
Yeah,
you agree with that?
technology is pretty forgiving like that. It's not like you've printed 5,000 copies of something and now you're stuck with it in the money. Like now we can, yeah, break something on a website and there's a rollback feature and things like that. And yeah, there is usually, I mean, yeah, I have made mistakes doing web and coding with Claude, but then it helps you fix it equally.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's pretty good like that.
And so then what are you seeing as the biggest, like you've just called out, like, you need to be embracing AI and bringing into your business. Like, what are you seeing as the biggest resistance issues then for people that are not wanting to? Is it fear? Like, what is it? Or are they wanting to stay? Like, if we think about, like, you've had a life in terms of shaping, adapting, when adversities come at you hard, you've then had to go, all right, okay, I've got to work out how I, work my way through this. Similar kind of if you think about business, and yet there's people probably that just want to sit in. Like you could have, like for example, in your personal life, you could have sat there and wallowed in everything that's happened to you, and
I
I'm
could
sure
have
you.
never got off the couch. I can see how people don't. I totally can.
Yeah, totally right. But something in you got you off the couch, even on probably days where you did, like it's okay to have those days,
Well, I
right? And
think, for me, that previous elite sport helped, like, there was huge resilience there, and I grew up around family who were really good at sport too, so it's like, no, you don't give up, you get up, even when you don't feel like it, and then even if you've got limitations, like, I had plenty, like, I had this broken foot, and then I just felt like I couldn't even go to the gym, I couldn't go to a session because I just would have burst into tears or um would have got overstimulated or the music would have been too loud or all of that. So I was like, right, well, I've got to get fit somehow. I've got to get this body moving. How am I going to do it? So I found an exercise physiologist who specialized in strokes and hearts. And he never really had a patient under 70 before because, but he was
Mm,
great. And he came to my house and we did step ups on the steps and we did, light weights. And that's
yeah,
how I got going again. Yeah.
and so then pulling that right back to business.
Mm.
And people that are not wanting to embrace it. I spoke to someone the other week and he was like, I'm just letting my team look after that. I have no interest at all um, I like the old school traditional newspaper. I have no desire to at all touch AI. He's the CEO. I'm like, what? I
Yeah.
was like shocked. I was like, that is almost irresponsible in a way because you have to start to embrace it. Like, what do you say to people that you encounter that are just like, no? Or like, do you have those sorts of conversations at all?
Yeah, I mean, there's all different people who think all different ways, but I think fear isn't it there's fear around job loss, I think, but I don't think, it's the leaders who are worried about that, though they should be. I think the biggest thing is getting started. It's making this big transition and change because people go, "Yeah, I wanna learn that. I know I need to, but I don't have time," or, I've just gotta do it this way for now." And I just think, but the thing could save you time. I know it's double time while you're learning and applying. I get
It
that.
is.
but then it's going to save you so much time, and you have to make the transition sometimes. So there's no time like now. So it's usually that they learn it because they've gone to an event and then it's right there in front of them. I think some are seeking it out. I think some are we call it tutu in New Zealand, like playing on ChatGPT and things at home, but not necessarily under guidance. So I think just like social media come out, I see so many parallels. They've got an account, they're having a play, but they don't really know what they're doing. And so I start with the basics and teach them to train the brain with the custom instructions, the projects, the connectors, just knowing how to set it up properly gets you going. And like anything, a bit like the gym, if you get a benefit, you'll go again. So
Yeah,
if
totally.
they start going, oh, it's made a pretty good meal plan, so made and a shopping list, and now I can eat healthy.
Yeah,
Oh, well,
totally.
show me what else I can do.
100%.
So I'm actually doing a contract at the moment with TAFE Queensland where I am training them on actually a lot of personal stuff, but that we hope will whet the appetite for them to continue to use it in a professional
Yeah, it's a
context.
great
And
way to do it.
that was the angle I suggested would work because, yeah. But apart from that, I'd also say the other big challenge is a lot of corporates have Copilot and they're like, we've only got Copilot. What do we do? Can't do anything. And I'm saying, oh, yeah, you can do a lot with Copilot still. Here's the
Absolutely.
limitations. And then I think the other big thing, well, number one as well, Copilot is getting a lot of integration. So Copilot now has a Claude integration, has always had a ChatGPT integration, but there's other integrations coming. So watch out, Copilot's going to get a whole lot more features.
Agree.
And it's about using them and understanding, well, you need to know Claude to use it. And then I've also had people say, well, tell me the one tool I get my team then. Is it Copilot? Is that safe? I've heard that's safe. And I'm like, no, they kind of need all of them. And it depends what their role
Role
is
they
as
play.
well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it could be that you need Gemini for that and ChatGPT for that and Claude for that and Perplexity for research. They've all got different means. And it's about
Agree.
knowing all the tools and then going, I've got to do a research project. What should I use? Perplexity. I've heard it's good. Let's give it a go. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's a
it's
lot to learn away
orchestrating.
systems.
Yeah, totally. It's orchestrating the team, isn't it? Like it's orchestrating and integrating that agent, well, with the team, and then bringing it in together. I've got two final questions for you, and one of them has just completely slipped my mind that will come back to me in a second. No, it actually has just come back to me.
Okay.
Simplicity. So obviously, you've had to change quite a bit in your lifestyle, and you were talking to me the other week around your 4 days weeks and getting back to basics, and like choosing joy, and then obviously having the business as well. What like in terms of your, I guess, optimization and like, have you noticed, and where I'm going with this is you've had to pull back, right, in terms of like to ensure that your health is your number one priority and everything else. Have you noticed that you're a better version of yourself in terms of, because of like cutting back your hours, et cetera, when you're working, and you're like coming back to like even education, kids go to school from 9 till 3:30 or whatever. Do they really need to be at school for that long? What have you noticed about,
I
yeah.
mean, I think I'm still becoming because I think we always are. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, I've got it all sorted, guys. Just
Yeah.
follow my lead. It's not like that. I'm still figuring it out. But and then I can also share what's worked for me. But I think everybody has to figure out what
Different.
works for them because we're
Yeah.
all such different human beings. Right now, being in New Zealand works for me because I am 2 hours ahead. So I get my mornings to myself. And for me, that means I can sleep in a bit longer. I can get up and do exercise. I can eat a long, slow breakfast, drink a coffee, read a paper or a book, or text some friends or talk to my kids or whatever I need to do. And then I go to work. And I feel like I've got to do all those things. I don't want to set an alarm and get up at 4 or 6 in the morning to fit those things in. I'm probably a little bit anti early alarms because I did them for so many years as an
I'm a
elite
bit the
athlete
same, to
as
be
well.
honest.
Yeah, and also sleep is very important, and I do have trouble with sleep. I sometimes can't get to sleep. So if I haven't got to sleep till late, I need that early morning to get that enough sleep. So there's that. What does it look like for me? It is recognizing when I'm not focused and I actually can't keep working, and then going and taking a break. I love how I can get Claude doing a task for me, and now I get more breaks, and I go, oh, that's going to take a little bit. I'll go and look out the window, or I'll go call a friend, or I'll go get a coffee, or I'll go eat some nuts, or whatever I'm going to do just to break it up. And getting away from that computer, I've found, is really important for me. Um, I've had to do a lot of healing and a lot of therapies. I've tried a lot of different things. Another reason in New Zealand works for me is I have access to rongoa and mirimiri and modalities that I can't access in Australia. And I get them free as well. So I'm very grateful for that. And they are part body work, part spirituality, and
Alignment. Mm,
it's a whole dimension and moving big things, difficult things that feel like I could meditate all I want. I could eat all the
yeah,
good food, sleep,
incredible.
whatever, and I can't move it, and I need help with it, and I'm okay to admit that. So I seek those things out, whichever city I've been living in, and I've been living in different
Oh,
ones, trying to just find, and then really listening to your body and going, "Does this feel right?" And I do think there's signs, and again, in New
agree.
Zealand, we talk about that a lot. You go, "There's a rainbow, that's a sign. There's a feather at the door, that's a sign." These are
11:11,
leading you
that's the
towards, yeah,
sign.
they're saying, "You're in the right direction, keep going that way." And I'm
Yeah,
very aware of those signs now, and I look out for those signs, and I see them, whereas before I didn't see the signs, and maybe I
I
wasn't in the right place. Mm,
it's a good learning for all the leaders out there and founders and businesses as well. You know, you're almost forced into having to go through what you've gone through to then, because you said you wouldn't have noticed them before, but now you notice them, right? And I think that is one of the biggest opportunities for leaders. Like, health is wealth. Like, we can chase external, things all the time. Health is wealth, and I think that we need more of the ability to step away, be present, notice what our body, our mind, our soul is telling us. And quite often the answers come from within when we are in a more quieter place and less in this just like going 100 miles an hour sort of thing. And I think, especially with AI and just the pace, like you said, it's exponential, it's so fast.
mm,
Trying to keep up with everything. What are you who are you trying to keep up with?
yeah.
Like, do you know what I mean, Yvette? So I guess do you have any final like words of wisdom or anything that you would leave the listeners with?
I don't know, hopefully I've shared something that's useful to people. Just, yeah, in the busy, just keep creating the space, and I get it's very difficult when you've got children and responsibilities, but, manage your time. We've all got 24 hours, 7 days a week. Just block out those times. A real simple one I've been saying to people lately is just imagine you've got a clear vase, and what are your rocks? If you really want to get fit, or you really want more sleep, or you really want more time with the kids, or you really need to focus on your business right now to build it, whatever it is, if that's your rock, put that rock in first and block those times out in your calendar and go, I need 4 hours on anthropic training a week to keep up with this stuff. So I'm going to put that in because it's important to me right now, and all the rest is sand that can just fit in around it. All the other people
So
hassling
good.
you, wanting to talk to you, wanting meetings with you, they'll fit in somewhere around it, the sand, but put the rocks in first.
Yeah. Great advice. Yvette, how do we find out more about you? Where do we go? You've got obviously your
Company,
website.
website, thecreativecollective.com.au, or I've got my own website too, Yvette Adams, YVETTE, adams.com.au, either or find me on
Amazing.
LinkedIn. Yeah,
Amazing. Thanks, Yvette. Such a joyful conversation and such great perspective. And for all the listeners that have listened to this, I hope you've taken away as much as I have from chatting with Yvette. So, Yvette, have a wonderful afternoon. I cannot remember what you say in. Is it? No. Is it Kia or?
easily. Kia ora,
Yeah.
we say hello, and goodbye. Well, there's lots of different, haere rā is one way you can say it. There's lots of different ways you say
Oh my God.
it. Another way.
Thank you so much. Have a great end of the day and great weekend. Thank you.
Thanks, Belinda, for the opportunity. Appreciate
No,
it.
you're welcome. Thank you.
Bye.